much of the world was designed by men for men, and it works really well for them. You know, I grew up at a time when you opened up the want ads in the paper, they were listed under help wanted male and help wanted female. People could discriminate against women pretty much in any way they wanted to.
You know, when you look at societies both historically and cross-culturally, you know, women have always been second-class citizens, you know, and whose value has really been on their reproductive value, on their value to men, and women have generally done most of the world's work. But had very little control and influence around decision making. So whether that's even decision making within the home, all the way up to, you know, leading countries and businesses and the education system and all of that.
So I really grew up at a transitional time when I graduated from college in the early 70s, and it was still hard to get a credit card in your own name. Even.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like that long ago to me.
Yeah.
It was before you were born, but you know, that was in my adult lifetime.
You know, I think that today, especially a lot of women, especially in the U.S., think that, you know, all of the, especially young women, think that a lot of the challenges have been kind of overcome, and that women and men have full equality. You know, and I think that there is some truth to the fact that things have changed a lot. You know, and that we are at a much better place in terms of access to jobs and, you know, education and all of those things. But at the same time, I think that there are still barriers that exist.
You know, I started in working with women, working for the Santa Barbara Rape Crisis Center. So I got one perspective there about violence against women and how that really has a huge impact on women's confidence, their ability to succeed, and the really long-term negative impact that had. I felt like this was something the women's movement wasn't really addressing, was the issue of economic self-sufficiency. And I just thought, if it's this hard for me to make a living when I've been to college and, you know, grown up in a middle-class family, how hard must it be for a woman of color who didn't go to college, who has a couple kids to support, maybe in an abusive relationship. So I really started to look around at, you know, ways that we could change that. And Women's Economic Ventures is really what came out of that thought process.
Just for, you know, all kinds of social reasons, women tend to take more of a proactive approach in thinking about, like, the children and, like, long-term effects of things and communities. And then,
because that's a huge issue that I see within environmental organizations and the environmental movement, is that people are just so focused on saving the environment, on recycling, on getting climate policy, on yada yada yada, but they're not worrying about the people, because any effect of the environment, whether it's positive or negative, affects the people there. And so when people are too busy focusing on the environment, they lose sight of the people and what's happening to them. That's why for me the feminist ideal is so important, because feminism is about looking at the people, looking at these layers of oppression and empowering the people, no matter what that form of the oppression is, so that they can find their voice, find their community, find their space to fight these oppressions. And then when you have people fighting for themselves, then it's going to help protect the environment, because as you fight for yourself and for your right, especially if you're in an underprivileged community, you're kicking out a lot of these oppressors, and the people who oppress people are the same ones who are oppressing and destroying the environment.
Women care more about those kinds of issues. They make their decisions based on many factors. It's not just how much money can I make with this business. They want to feel good about their business. They want to feel good about what they do. Right from the beginning of our program, we always ask women, how do they define success? And very few of them ever use money as their scorecard for success. They almost always talk about increased choices and options, the things that they can do for their children, safety and security. You know, they want to make sure that when they get up and go to work, their car starts. They want to have a roof over their head that they can depend on. They want to be able to send their kids to college. And so that's a different point of view of the world. It's not about just, you know, how much money can I amass in my bank account. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with wanting to make a lot of money, but there is something wrong with exploiting everybody else, you know, for your own personal gain. And so we see more women really share the wealth pay better benefits, those kinds of things.
There's this whole body of thought called ecofeminism, which looks at the relationship between environmentalism and feminism, and these theories argue that the way that people in modern industrial culture objectify like the earth and land has like parallels to the objectification of women. And if you look at it historically, like the earth was often considered like woman, like Mother Nature and Mother Earth, and that kind of thing. And so that the way that we talk about nature can have an impact on the way that women are treated and vice versa.
As people are being oppressed, like the land is being destroyed in the same, and when people have a voice and they can protect themselves, they're also going to protect their land and the environment. What we have is there's this issue of people totally displacing the environment from people, and and that's just, we see like this displacement of people in the environment, not just in caring for the environment, but in also the destruction. That's why there's kind of this excuse to destroy the land and reap it for all of its resources, because you think like man's above nature. And I also kind of see this trend within an environmental sustainability movement is that, we have to save like the trees, save the plants, save the environment, and there's still this displacement of, rather than, it's not this man above nature anymore, but just this, here's man, here's nature, we have to, as men, have to work to save nature. So there's still this total disparity between what people are and what nature is. And there's this issue to save one or the other. And I think why empowering women and the environment, and just where my ideals of feminism come from and environmentalism come together, is because you can't have people and the environment aren't separate. They're the same entity. We live off of each other, we work off of each other. And so when you empower, you can't just save the environment and not think about saving the people. You have to save both at the same time.